Here we are again, the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Did you subscribe? I knew you did. Okay. Well, be sure to tell your friends so we can get extra viewership. That's how we were able to continue doing this for you. We need those viewers. So watch it over and over again. Learn something. It's very educational. Get to see stuff. You like stuff, right? Everybody likes stuff. I got more stuff than anybody. Okay, somebody wanted to ask me about my Love Tester. Here he is. Well, the Love Tester was a standard game in the early penny arcades. Everybody wants to test their love and their skill. So they had many different variations of this. And the cardboard insert with the names, they actually printed in many different styles, being the same machine. This one's pretty nice. I like the pattern on it. It's a sex guide, and we have uncontrollable and hot stuff, passionate, burning, sexy, wild, mild, harmless, clammy, and blah. You'd be surprised how many people are blah. I happen to have a quarter. It only takes a quarter. You put in your quarter, and he starts blinking and flashing. Then I just kind of pull the handle. I don't have to put a lot of strength, just hold it. It shows you how passionate you are. How am I? Look at that. I am passionate. I told you how passionate I was. Am I right? I'm always right. Well, this is actually a random generator. Okay? Even back in the 20s and the 30s, when they made the early versions of this, there was a form of randomness to it so that not everybody would get the same results. This model is actually a remake. It looks older than it is. That's what it means. Now, it's not new. They probably made it in the 70s, but the original ones like this were made in the 30s and the 40s, usually by a company named Mike Mundus. They were big into penny arcade stuff back in the day, and they made a lot of these things. And I have somewhere in the archives an original version like this, and it's very electromechanical, but it does the same thing as this one does. So this one, probably not really fun to see, but we'll see anyway, just for the sake of interest inside here. Uh-oh, it's a little dark in there. We have a circuit board. Obviously, this is not new technology circuit boards, because look at the size of that circuit board for components that are going around there. There's quite a few components for something that's really quite simple. So this machine is probably definitely, I would say, 70s. I don't think they would have made a board quite like that into the 80s. And probably everything on there is serviceable. I don't see any odd-shaped chips there. Sometimes they made some chips that were spider chips and you can't get them anymore. But in one way or another, I'd probably be able to keep that board running for a very, very long time, even if I had to use some other type of chip to simulate the same type of outputs that was going in there and not fit in the same footprint. But it is a computerized game, and all you're doing is you're pulling your handle, which has a switch in it, which the wires are going down, and it's telling the board that you pulled the handle, and it's driving the lights with the wires up there and controlling the circuits. Pretty simple, actually. I'm looking here. Of course, you have your triacs down on the bottom, which are driving the 110 volts for the light bulbs, because they are actually 110 volt light bulbs. They're not little LEDs or anything like that. So it's using a decent amount of power. They're low wattage bulbs. You don't want to put a 100-watt bulb in there because you'd probably blow the transistor off of the board. But I'm using, gosh, these look like, are they 5-watt bulbs? I don't even think they're 11s. I use small ones. You can use 11s pretty easily, but I wouldn't go over a 25, maybe stretching. I think that would be really going, but it's fine the way it is. And you have your simple bucket catching your quarters down in the bottom here. And it's pretty simple all ways around. Whoa, I'm uncontrollable. You know how it knows? It saw me over at the Zamperla bull strength test machine when I got that really high score. This is a fun machine. It's a love test machine, but I'll tell you another interesting thing about it. These machines made in the day were cast. I don't want to break my key, but it doesn't want, oh, it goes the other direction. Duh. Okay, this is all cast aluminum, and typically, this is the only thing that could possibly easily break by some monster yanking and pulling on it, and they break the handles. But this remake is actually built pretty well, and I don't think we're gonna have too much problem there. This top piece also would be cast, typically aluminum, but this one, I'm not sure if it is aluminum. I got it on hinges. It feels cool. It could be aluminum, but sometimes they cast it out of a ceramic just to be cheap, some kind of resin. But I think this one is aluminum. From the temperature I'm feeling it, it feels like it's metal. I put a hinge on here because sometimes I can't get under a doorway and I can just slop it down, but typically this is just screwed down on the top here. They made many things like this, and here's another fun one. This is the grip test machine. This is actually an older machine. It is probably original to this model. I don't think this goes back to the 20s or the 30s. I'd say this is more a 50s piece. But it is an original one that was made by the company that did that, and you have your Cali legs. You see this? Very ornate, and they are metal. And reproduction legs like that, they don't have the detail. They don't have the deep impressions on it. I mean, they're great for collecting dirt. If you have them at home, you might want to clean them out better. But around here, this is the way it is. Now, I know that the cord on this is pretty short. You can't pull it more than it is, but we can go around the back on the skee ball machine, and maybe we can take a peek inside. Yep, we can get up here. Now, I see that that's not a lock I'm using, so I have it held together with a screw because I'm not going back here very often because this is actually a pretty reliable machine. But you wouldn't think that this would be complicated. But there's actually a lot to this machine. Look at that. You have several relays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relays, right? Quite a major variable resistor here. Well, it's a wire round too. Several fuses for different situations. Motor, bell. I have something jumped here for some reason. Why do I have that jumped? Oh, I know why. Because there was a poor connection. This is pretty interesting. Can you see down here? I love this. This is really fun. You know, you see fun things. In old pinball games and amusement games, they used something, they called them a Jones plug. And they were down here like this, where they would separate the thing. Now I can pull this out, right, to separate. It's not easy to do. You see how it pulls out? I can take that out, or I can put this back in. And that would be to disconnect some part of the machine, usually the head to the tail. But here, they've used the Jones plug, and they've used it for components, to hold components. They have shoved 2 bridge rectifiers and a wire round resistor into different ports of the Jones plug, and they're using the female connectors of the Jones plug to hold the legs of these parts. So it makes me wonder, how often would they blow a bridge rectifier on this machine that you had to put it in a slide out removable position? That's pretty interesting. Usually bridge rectifiers last and last and last. You know, once in a while they'll blow, but it's not common. But here they have 2 of them, and they're in a slide-in position, and including the resistor. So I find that as a mechanic really, really interesting. The motor is going to turn the finger pointer on this. We have a bell that's going to ring a little bit, give it a little bit of feel like you did something really well. But I'm going to play it from the front so we can watch it go, and then you get a better idea what it's doing in the back. Now this handle is actually harder to pull than the Love machine because this is a grip test machine. It says grip test. So you want to be able to squeeze this hard. So I'm running it at 50 cents. So I have to put in 2 quarters because you simply can't run games like this for a quarter anymore. Now when I give them a squeeze, I got to give them a good squeeze. And I'm squeezing hard. And it's going to tell me how hard I'm squeezing it. How far am I going? Look at that. I am 235, and then you look at your chart down here, and I'm between a commando and an athlete. Isn't that interesting? So I'm pretty strong with my hand. Now, if I want to be a real monster, I'll try to turn it all the way around. Let's see. Ready? I'm going to hold it, I'm going to squeeze it. I want to try to pass 0. Look at this. I'm past top. I'm going around again. Come on. Oh, wow. I turned it completely around and made it halfway down because I am the mighty Randy. Now, interestingly enough, this really does measure your strength. It does it in an unusual way. It doesn't have a potentiometer to measure resistance. Right away, you techs were thinking that. It doesn't have any optics. But what it does have is ingenuity. Here we have a stepper unit that would typically be found in a mechanical shuffle bowling alley. That's what they used. Can you believe that? And they've attached the handle, see I can move it like this, to a mechanism on the center that will actually just push this step unit. Isn't that cool? So when I pull the handle, I'm actually just advancing the step unit. Now I can reset it back to the beginning where it's touching the handle. So when I pull the handle, I'm moving the step unit. See it going up? And it will stay there because it's a ratchet type of effect unless it's hit reset. Now the way it detects your strength is how far you're able to move that up. And there are different positions with the etched copper on here that the different finger wipers will rub against. And as it moves up, it sets the current through a series of resistors that will then tell the machine how quickly to advance your score. So it's the same principle as a potentiometer, which basically is a variable resistor when you turn it. But the difference is this is locking in the resistance to what you did. If I turned a resistor and then when I released the handle, the resistor would go back, it wouldn't be in the same position. So they're using this as a lock position that'll actually put you in the position to remember how hard you pulled it. See that? Even though my hand's off it, it'll tell the machine. It's like turning it to a knob and you're not turning it anymore. Think of it like a volume control. I turned the volume control, but once I stop turning it, I can't turn it again. And that's how it tells in the back. This little board over here, obviously not original, that is a Randy board, and that is telling the machine that it's 50 cents instead of a quarter. So I had to work around it. This would be your original simple turn-on switch to the micro switch to the coin mechanism here. We turn it on, but I have the turn-on, instead of going to these wires directly into the unit, I have it going through my board, which is then going to that unit. So it's basically telling it that it's 1 quarter or 2 quarters. So as I flip the switch for the quarter, you can watch the unit. 1 quarter, 2 quarters. I use that modification in many of my machines that I have to alter from a quarter to 50 cents because they're simply not made to count quarters. So this one is because of the little Randy Edition board. Now, if you go back in the back, when I squeeze the handle, you'll get a better idea of just what it's doing. And I'm going to squeeze the handle. And that's where I am. Now watch when I put quarters in again and you'll see the motor reverse itself going back to the other direction. Back to the home position, and I'll give them a squeeze. I haven't worked on this machine in quite a while, but I remember the purpose of this large variable resistor. Now the reason I call it a variable resistor is this part here, if I loosen that screw, I can actually slide that up or down and then tighten it up again, so it's going to make its contact on a position. This is actually a continuous loop of wires that are just wound in a long loop going from one end to the other. And this part in the middle is going to squeeze onto that wired coil in different positions, which is basically creating a resistance of variable nature. If my input is coming in here, which is there's actually nothing over here. My input is coming in, I'm 1/3 the way close to my input. Whereas if I slide this down here, I'm going to create an additional section of looped input of resistance that it's going to take before it gets to this signal that's turning it out. What that's actually controlling is the speed of my motor. My motor is running at a certain speed according to the way I set it. If I run the motor faster, I'm going to get higher scores. If I run the motor slower, I'm going to appear weaker. So that's how that's done. And interestingly enough, the blinking of the lights and the bell, does it remind you of something? Think about it. You see it every day. It's your car directional. When you get in your car and you turn on your directional blinkers, they're actually using a car flashing unit that makes the lights blink and the lights and the bell, just like your lights would flash on and off when you're turning your car, that is pulsing the apparatus for you to see. It's very simple. And this is what they did, and this is likely from the 50s. I can't tell you an exact date because there's no date on it, but judging from the mechanisms inside, this is where we're at. So I think that's pretty fun, especially when you get to see the way things work. Certainly more fun than a computer board where you just look at the board and, you know, if something broke on it, I'd be tracking it down and checking components and things of this nature. Here, while you are tracking things down and checking components, you're really looking at people's ingenuity, because they had to figure how to do it without computer boards. Isn't that fun? I love old electromechanical stuff. It's just the deal, you know? And that's what it's all about. We love old stuff. We love all stuff, but the old stuff is the best stuff. And that's where you find it, right here at the Main Street Randy Land YouTube channel. That's what it's all about. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time. Tell your friends so they don't miss out. We need your viewership. Check it out. Make them watch it. Watch the episode several times. Run it while you're in the bathtub. You'll love it. See you next time.